What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another Fancy Football Scout video here. FPL Harry bringing you Harry's Hot Topics video every single week, discussing the hot topic in the community. This week, we are having a look at midfielders. We're going to break it into two, and we're going to look at both those sort of 8 million midfielders, 7.5 up to about 8.5 million price bracket, and then we'll have a look at those cheap midfielders as well. The likes of you selling Neto, Leon Bailey. We'll be having a look at those sort of 7 million and under midfielders as well. So basically, all midfielders that aren't those premium options are the ones that we're going to be looking at today. So the two brackets, we're looking at the likes of Pascal Gross, Rodrigo, Harrison, who are very highly transferred in, and then we'll be having a look at maybe should we have Diaz, who scored a great goal at the weekend, Kulusevski, who looked great in game week 1, maybe not so good in game week 2, and then the likes of the Manchester City options in Foden, Gundogan, and Mahrez as well, plus other options in there. So let's dive in and have a look firstly at the fixtures. So on screen, we have fixtures over the next 6 game weeks, and we're going to be looking at those best fixtures. Particularly, we'll be trying to put a lens on an attacking point of view because that's what's important. Again, down at the bottom of the list, you have the likes of Wolves and Aston Villa with a more difficult run of fixtures from an attacking point of view. Those of you with Bailey, those of you like Neto, like myself, will be looking to sell them, and we'll be looking to bring in a couple of options who might be good replacements for these two. Again, up at the list, we have Brighton. Again, we're looking at the likes of Pascal Gross, who scored twice in game week 1. Nothing for him in game week 2, but might be on set pieces as well, potentially on penalties. We're unsure exactly who the Brighton penalty taker is going to be this season, especially now that Neil Maupay has been linked and it looks like he's on his way to Nottingham Forest. Also high up the list, we have Brentford, the likes of Damsgaard, those of you going in for Josh Da Silva. Now, personally, I'm not a big Josh Da Silva fan, even at 4.6, 4.7 million. I don't expect him to consistently get minutes and to consistently return goals as well. 0.1 expected goals for him so far this season, despite scoring twice, and that is not a very sustainable amount of numbers. He's looked good, he's fine for that price, but I wouldn't be expecting very much from him. Elsewhere, a bit further down the list, we do have Leeds. Now, Leeds are a bit further down based on their fixture against Chelsea in game week 3. If you're going in for the likes of Rodrigo or Harrison, although it's good for game week 3, you might end up benching them this week, and after that, they have that really nice run of fixtures. Also high up the list, Manchester City as well, so looking at the likes of Gundogan, looking at the likes of Foden. Although Bournemouth at home into game week 2 was a great fixture, you might feel like you've missed the boat. Those good fixtures do continue for the foreseeable future as well. Really nice run. Newcastle away this week, then Crystal Palace and Nottingham Forest at home for Manchester City is a really nice run. So Brighton, Manchester City, Brentford have really nice options. Chelsea, Arsenal in there, but no real options apart from maybe Bukayo Saka. Martinelli isn't a player that I'm really going to talk about too much during this video. For me, he is the best option and the best priced midfielder that you can really go for at the moment. Just go and get Martinelli. Don't really worry about watching the rest of this video if you don't have him in your team already. At 6 million, he is an absolute bargain. Really interesting as well to see that when Smith Rowe comes on, it's not necessarily for Martinelli, and Martinelli staying on and playing a lot more minutes than maybe Saka is. Now, Saka is the other Arsenal midfielder that we could look at. He's only got an assist so far this season, and that's maybe not quite as much as we'd hope for. And as a Saka owner, I'm hoping that he picks up the returns in the next few weeks. But Bournemouth, Fulham, and Aston Villa in the next 3 game weeks could be the great time for Bukayo Saka to get a few more FPL returns for us. Bit further down, we see Everton come up, and the likes of Demarai Gray and Anthony Gordon could be very nice options as well. Anthony Gordon is linked with a move away, Chelsea potentially bidding for him, so Demarai Gray may be the one we should be focusing on a little bit more, as his future is a bit more secured being part of Everton. Now, the opening few weeks, they weren't great. They are lacking a centre forward, but with the fixtures they have on the horizon, like Nottingham Forest, Brentford and Leeds in their next 3 as well, these 5.5 million options, if you are looking for a replacement for Neto, could be a fantastic pick. A bit further down, again, players that we've actually looked at a little bit fall into the Crystal Palace team. Wilfried Zaha is a player that we've spoken quite a lot about at times over the past season. He's often a player that has a nice fixture run, but doesn't ever return on the value that maybe we'd expect him to. 7 million feels like quite a lot of money to pay for him this season, given some of the other value picks, but he did score again in game week 2 against Liverpool in that 1-1 draw. The likes of Eze, the likes of Elise could be good options if we do get sustained minutes, and the likes of Ismail Assar, who could be the new Crystal Palace right winger, depending on his price, could be another great option, given how he was a good option at Watford as well last season. So some nice teams in here with good fixtures. Also with these 5.5, you can't expect too much from them. Those 8 million options, you might be wanting to look at the fixtures as well. So those are the fixtures, but now we need the predicted points for the next 6 game weeks for both those cheap options and those 8 million options as well. So we're going to start off with those cheap options, and of course at the top of the list we have Martinelli. He's predicted to be at least the first or second highest scoring player over the next 6 game weeks in 5 of the 6 game weeks that we have here. Only game week 6 he doesn't fall into that as he plays Manchester United. So the sort of turquoise colour that you have here is the highest, and then I've also highlighted in that blue the second highest predicted point scorer for each of those weeks. So you can see that Martinelli is first in 4 of the first 6, and then he also comes second in that game week 6 fixture as well. Interestingly, we do have Rodrigo coming in quite well as he ranks second in 2 of the first game weeks. Lingard and Bruno Guimaraes also scoring quite highly. Now, if you look at the overall point scoring, however, not necessarily scoring well in one particular game week, James Ward-Prowse and Pascal Gross rank second and third behind Martinelli. Ward-Prowse is an interesting one, not necessarily that exciting an FPL asset as we all know, not necessarily scoring big returns, although he did return in game week 1. We do know how consistent he is. 6.5 million is probably more than we'd want to pay for him, but he does return well on the predicted points. The Southampton fixtures over the next 3 are a bit more difficult. Again, maybe it's a wait and see on Ward-Prowse. Hopefully he drops in price, maybe a couple of points to 6.3 for example, and we can go and get him. However, he does do well, as I said, for overall points, but not quite so well for value because of that price. But then we look at Pascal Gross of Brighton, who ranks as the second best value pick behind Martinelli. Again, he doesn't rank there really for any particular game week. Game week 4 he does okay as the second highest predicted points behind Martinelli, but again over that 5 fixture run they have a really nice run of fixtures as we looked at in the previous screen, and I think he could be a really nice option. He's on set pieces as well for Brighton. We don't know whether he's going to be on penalties. Again, it could be McAllister, it could be Pascal Gross, it could be another option like Trossard for example, could even be Danny Welbeck. So don't buy him necessarily thinking he's going to be on penalties, but he could be a good option for 5.5 million. Next up is Zaha, who does well again for predicted points. His value rating does drop again because of that 7 million price tag. It feels a little bit difficult to go and buy him at the moment, but he is likely to be on penalties. He is that talisman for Crystal Palace as well. I do like him, but I'm unlikely to go and pay that 7 million price bracket when you have the likes of Gundogan coming in at 7.5. Bit further down, we then do start to see some of the Leeds players coming in. So Rodrigo, the one that ranks high, he looks to be playing slightly out of position as a midfielder in FPL, but playing up front. A really nice option, has risen to 6.1 at the time recording and is predicted to rise to 6.2 this evening before this video will be released as well. So he is going up in price. If you've bought him already, well done, you are getting that bit of value in there. So the ones that I'm really looking at for me are Martinelli, of course, Pascal Gross and Rodrigo are the ones I like. You can also look a bit lower down where you start to see those Everton players coming in. You've got Gordon down at the bottom, but if he does leave, then it will be the likes of Damari Gray, who you can also consider as well. Next up, we have a look at those more premium midfielders, those sort of 7.5 plus options. So I have grouped Gundogan in there, and we also have Jarrod Bowen in there as well. So 7.5 up to 8.5 million. Straight away, the top 2 are standout options. It feels like they are better than the rest of the pack that you've got here. Kulusevski coming out on top with Luis Diaz closely behind. Kulusevski is predicted to score 28 points over the next 6 game weeks, closely followed by Luis Diaz as well. There is a drop off of almost 3 points down to Saka, who falls in 3rd. Then you have the likes of Mount, Foden, Mahrez, Bowen, Gundogan and Maddison down at the bottom as well. Interestingly, even when you start to look at value, you'd still have Gundogan falling very low down. There is a slight issue with predicted minutes for him, especially with Bernardo Silva still being a Manchester City player. However, seeing that he got the captain's armband for Manchester City in game week 2 does make me feel a little bit more assured, and I might want to boost those numbers up a little bit more than we have got here. But it does stand out that Kulusevski and Luis Diaz are the 2 that we should go and get. Again, interestingly, when there was substitutions early on in that Tottenham game, Kulusevski did remain on the pitch against Chelsea. Again, just showing that Antonio Conte does trust him as one of his preferred wingers here. A bit lower down, Saka, again, I do feel like as an owner, I do need to keep the faith with him, keep owning him for the next couple of game weeks against Bournemouth and Fulham, see if he can get some returns. The Manchester City midfielders are a bit of a minefield. Foden is the highest for predicted points, but it is 24.9 again, because we're not exactly sure how many starts he's going to get over that run. If he was going to start all 6 games, he'd have a predicted points more like Kulusevski and more like Luis Diaz at the top. However, again, because of that minefield of Pep Roulette, it does have to be Kulusevski, Luis Diaz and probably Bukayo Saka are the 3 that we should really be looking at. So in terms of my overall ranking, we have looked at fixtures, we've had a look at predicted points, we've had a general discussion about their abilities, their minutes, their set pieces and everything like that. In terms of my overall ranking, we do rank in terms of those more premium options. We have Kulusevski, Diaz, Saka coming in the top 3, Foden 4th. I think he's worth the gamble a little bit depending on the minutes, depending on how he looks maybe in the next couple. And then we have Mason Mount there. If Bernardo Silva goes or we see a bit more from Gundogan, he could even be 3rd on this list above Foden in my opinion. In terms of those cheaper options, of course, you put Martinelli at the top. He is a great buy. Again, as I said, if you don't own him, make sure you're going and buying Martinelli over the next couple of game weeks. He is an absolute bargain and only going to rise in price even more than he has already. Gross comes in 2nd. Again, that Brighton team have a cracking run of fixtures over the next 6. Rodrigo next. Then we have the Everton guys, if you want to take a bit of a punt, followed by Jack Harrison because he is slightly more expensive than those 5.5 million options. If Harrison was 5.5, he'd go up the list, probably even above Rodrigo as well. It's just that extra 0.5 I don't really want to go and pay for him. Again, let me know what you think of my rankings. Let me know if there's any players that you'd throw into this top 5 for each of these that I haven't got in here. Any players you're considering buying, have you bought any of them? Pascal Gross is the one that I'm looking at from this list as well. Let me know what you think. Thank you all for watching. Drop any questions you have about the upcoming game week in the comment section down below. If you do want more FPL videos as well, don't forget to check out my channel. All the videos you have are in the description down below. I upload at least 3 videos a week plus deadline streams for you all. Thank you all for watching. Make sure you subscribe to Fantasy Football Scout as well. Good luck in game week 3 and I'll be back again very soon.